Hello and welcome to a new vlog and video of the cruise vibes, and it is day 2 on the Otello. As I said in the last video, I was invited by the CITS company to join a cruise with the Otello, and we are starting very early in the morning with a departure in Riol, where we spent the last day. And here on the map you can see our route. We are going to Bernkastel-Kues. So here you can see our ship turning on the Mosel right next to our docking location. As we are a small ship, there's enough space for us, and then it was time for a nice and delicious breakfast. And after breakfast we reached the first lock of our cruise. Of course, many more to come. At this part of the Mosel the landscape is not too spectacular, but that will change soon. And here we are already leaving the lock of Detzem again, with a difference in height of about 9 meters. And also after Detzem it is still not too spectacular. Of course the landscape is beautiful, but it will get much more beautiful later on. The first city where it's starting to get interesting is Neumagen-Dhron. Here you saw a vineyard in a heart shape, very beautiful. And there's also a replica of a Roman wine ship. Which you can see here. It's also able to actually sail, so quite an interesting ship to see. And after that the landscape is becoming more and more spectacular. We are heading for Peaceport, very small village, only 2,100 inhabitants, but it has vineyards with more than 413 hectares. So these are the biggest vineyards of the whole Mosel, and they have a very famous wine. It's called Peaceporter Goldtröpfchen, and some of these wines from this area belong to the best of the whole Mosel. Here you can see the winemakers at work, and then we are reaching the so-called Moselloreley. Maybe you heard about the Loreley, famous rock on the Rhine. And this rock here on the Mosel looks a bit similar, and that's why they call it the Moselloreley. Here we have a very interesting vineyard, probably the only in the world that you can only reach by boat. So you cannot walk there, there are no paths, you only can reach this vineyard by boat. Here you can see it's also written down there Loreley, so this is the Moselloreley rock. And as you can see, the landscape is just breathtaking, very, very beautiful, very scenic. And that's why sailing on the Mosel is always a good idea. One of the, or probably the most beautiful river in Germany. Then I spent some time in the gym, and that is the only downside I have to tell about this ship. If you remember my ship tour, you saw that they had a huge gym, and unfortunately they reduced the size. They put in an additional storage, which of course is understandable, because most German guests on river cruise ships are a bit older, so they don't need a gym with that size. Of course, especially on a ship like this, there are also younger guests, so they kept a part of the gym, but it is unfortunately much smaller than it used to be. Still quite a nice and decent gym. Here we are sailing past Bernkastel-Kues, our next destination. Behind Bernkastel-Kues we turned, and then we started with docking, and in the meantime it was time for lunch, and also lunch was very nice. Here you can see soup, very hot again, and also the main course was tasty. Very, very high quality of food on board, so I was very satisfied with the food quality. And then it was time to leave the ship and explore a bit of Bernkastel-Kues. There was yet another included excursion, but as I've been to Bernkastel-Kues multiple times, I decided to go on my own and do my favorite hike, which I do quite often when I'm in Bernkastel-Kues. We're starting in the city center, so here you can see a bit of the city center of Bernkastel-Kues. Probably the most visited city on the Mosel River, and also one, or the most beautiful one. But today I decided to walk a bit further, so at the end of the city center you find this tunnel, and then you continue straight on, and now we are hiking to a waterfall. It's not too far away, but it is actually a hike, so you should be prepared for the small hike. It's not too difficult, but still it is a hike, not a walk, so make sure to bring the right shoes, especially if it has been raining, because then it's also possible that parts of the ways look like this. But then we are walking through a small valley with a nice stream. As you can see here, very, very beautiful landscape. Already for this it's worth hiking there, but it's getting more spectacular when we are reaching the waterfall itself. going across these few small bridges, always next to the water, and now we are reaching the waterfall. Of course, it's not a huge waterfall, but still very beautiful landscape. So I can always recommend to go there to see this beautiful waterfall and this beautiful landscape. At least this is what I recommend doing if you are in Bernkastel, especially if you have been to the city center of Bernkastel-Kues before, then it's always a good idea to go to this waterfall. And from there you can go back either the same way or continue a bit further uphill and then going down the street again, also coming back to this tunnel where we started, the end of the city center. But there's also a third option, and that was what I was choosing, and that is continuing the hike. We are also going uphill a bit, and then we are reaching a crossing, so we can go to the left and to the right. So if you go down here to the right, you will come back to the city center, but if you go to the left, further on uphill, and then a few meters along this street, and then you will reach this place here where you turn off right. Then we continue on hiking uphill to the castle of Bernkastel-Kues. There's quite a big castle called Soothe, high above the city center, and this is also worth a visit, partly for this castle, which you can see here, but also mainly because of the fantastic view you have from up here. So this is my recommendation. It's a very nice hike that you can do. It's not too far. Of course, you have quite difference in altitude, so it is, as I said, a hike, not a walk, but you get rewarded with this fantastic view. Of course, you can take a nice look at your ship, which is docked here also in front of the city center, our wonderful Otello. Here we can see the city center of Bernkastel-Kues from uphill, and then you just walk down here this street and that will bring you right back to the city center. A lot of visitors are hiking this street up, but this is quite steep, so I would recommend doing the round that I did, going to the waterfall first, then uphill and then down this way, because going this way uphill, it's quite exhausting because it has a lot of steps, it's quite steep, and the other way around it's much easier and more comfortable. Also from this hiking path you have some nice views, of course also of your cruise ship, in this case the wonderful Otello. And we are continuing downhill, and once we reached the city we are directly at one of the most famous buildings of the whole city, the so-called Spitzhäuschen, and right next to the Spitzhäuschen is the market square with these wonderful half-timbered houses. So as I said, Bernkastel-Kues, most probably the most beautiful city on the Mosel, and after discovering it a bit, it was time to head back to our Otello. We were staying overnight, leaving very early in the morning, heading for our next destination in Cochem, but first it was time for dinner. Once again very nice, as you can see, again soup very hot, also the main course was hot, and the fish also was very delicious, so the food quality on board, as I said, is pretty good, and also the dessert was very good. And yeah, then it was some time for a nice evening in the panoramic lounge and with watching some ships sailing past, but it was also again time to go to sleep quite early because I wanted to wake up also early next morning to not miss too much of the beautiful landscape of the Mosel River. So this is why that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Here you can see when the next video will be uploaded and the name of the song. As always, I'd like to say thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to comment, like or share the video link. And if you want to see more cruise and travel videos like this, make sure to subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video then.